similarities, yet there's some differences, particularly with intensity and where we're showing intensity within the map. For interest of time, I'll just keep going through these. Next slide, please. Comparison with the 2017 Planning Commission concept. Again, similarities, differences. We talked about a lot of those during the presentation. Keep going. Next slide. Urban ring. You know, we want to contextualize what we're doing within the city with what's immediately outside and adjacent to the city. So we're beginning to overlay that. Next slide, please. Then next steps.
So would you like me to continue? I want to give a brief overview of our next step for this process. Do we want to stop now for any additional planning commission comments?
I think that this would be an opportunity to let the my colleagues chat with you a bit, if you don't mind. So, any thoughts, guys? You guys want to share before we move on?
Yeah, so I'd like to give a comment on that, on the low density in particular. You know, I think one of the real failings of the 2017 map is that, and actually I was just reading through an article about our November meeting, and Commissioner Dowell raised the point exactly, which is that like it focuses all of the development on historically marginalized areas and completely exempts the richest and like historically segregated areas. And you know, I look at this assessment map that I just emailed to all of you guys, and all of those bright red areas in North Downtown in particular, which is so close to all of the jobs and amenities, and in the Rugby Hills area, and to a little bit lesser extent Lewis Mountain, like those are all kept as low density residential in this new map. And I think in particular for North Downtown, like that really needs to go a lot more of it in a lot higher, especially since the infill potential is going to be limited by individually protected properties in historic districts. And then I think the medium could go significantly further into Rugby Hills. And then I'd also like to add that I feel like the medium is basically what we said the low was in our old narrative or key, and specifically two things. That fourth unit in a fourplex rather than limiting it to triplexes is extremely important, because that's where the federal or the FHA like federal requirements for accessible units kicks in. So if we want to have senior housing and age in place housing, we really need to allow that fourth unit as well. And I also really think we need to allow row homes, because we keep talking about affordable home ownership, and in particular like fee simple home ownership, like where you own the land too. You know, condo ownership is great, but like if you want to have cheaper homes that you can buy outright, then row homes are the only way to do it. So to me, I would like to see that middle density bumped up to kind of your larger plexes, like your 6 and 8 plexes, and even 12 plexes. You know, I think about some of the subdivided mansions like Coman Hall and like the 908 Cottage Lane, which are 12 plexes because they were mansions for rich people in the city, and then they were split up into fairly cheap apartments. And I feel like that's something we should be encouraging in more places.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts?